So let's talk about Kanye West, or Yeah, as he prefers. This is a man who built an empire that went far beyond music. He wasn't just a rapper, he was a brand, a mogul, a fashion icon. His Yeezy sneakers, created with Adidas, were more than just shoes. They were cultural artifacts that people would line up for, sometimes for days. His partnership with Gap was meant to bring high fashion to the masses, to put his unique vision into every mall in America. For a long time, it seemed like everything Kanye touched turned to gold, or at least to a very expensive limited edition shade of beige. He was on top of the world. But then, things started to unravel, and they unraveled fast. It all began with a series of public statements and social media posts that were, to put it mildly, controversial. The comments were filled with hateful rhetoric and anti-Semitic remarks that left people shocked and confused. Big companies, especially global brands like Adidas and Gap, have a line. And it turns out, Kanye didn't just cross that line, he pole vaulted over it. These corporations, which had invested billions into their partnerships with him, suddenly found themselves in an impossible position. They had to make a choice between their star collaborator and their core values. The decision was swift. Adidas, the company behind the iconic Yeezy sneakers, announced it was cutting ties. This was a massive blow, a move that reportedly cost Kanye his billionaire status overnight. Imagine that. One day, you're a billionaire. The next, you're not. All because of words. Then came Gap, which also terminated its ambitious 10-year deal with him. The final nail in the coffin of his direct-to-consumer business came in February 2025. Shopify, the platform that powered his Yeezy.com online store, pulled the plug. They shut it down completely after he tried to sell a t-shirt featuring a swastika. The message was clear. The major players were done. The fallout was immediate and severe. These weren't just business deals ending. It was the systematic dismantling of the Yeezy commercial empire. For years, Kanye had successfully blurred the lines between music, fashion, and culture, creating a powerful ecosystem where each part fueled the other. His concerts promoted his fashion, and his fashion created hype for his music. But now, the corporate pillars holding up that ecosystem were being knocked down one by one. The man who once declared himself the greatest artist of all time found himself without the mainstream platforms that had amplified his voice and his vision for over a decade. The party, it seemed, was officially over. Just when you thought it couldn't get worse for Kanye, it did. The individual breakups with Adidas, Gap, and Shopify were just the beginning. What followed was something rarely seen in modern celebrity culture: a coordinated industry-wide boycott. Leaders in fashion, technology, and music all seemed to come to an unspoken agreement. They decided that the risk of associating with Kanye was simply too high. This wasn't just about protecting their brands from bad press anymore. It felt like a moral stand, a collective decision that some things are more important than profit margins, even when the person in question is one of the most influential artists of his generation. This boycott threatened to suffocate his career from every angle. Fashion houses, which once clamored for a front-row seat at his runway shows, now wanted nothing to do with him. Tech companies, essential for launching any new venture in today's world, closed their doors. Music streaming platforms, the lifeblood of any modern musician, began to face public pressure to remove his catalog. The message from the industry was unified and deafening: you are on your own. It was a complete and total isolation, a great wall being built around him, designed to cut off his access to the global marketplace he once dominated so effortlessly. Adding a bizarre political twist to the saga, former President Donald Trump reportedly threw his weight behind the boycott. Now, this is a man who has had his own share of controversies, so his involvement was surprising to many. However, his public stance against anti-Semitism led him to support the efforts to block Kanye's business activities. This added a layer of political pressure to the corporate backlash, turning Kanye's professional crisis into a multi-front war. When you have both corporate giants and political figures lining up against you, you know you're in a unique kind of trouble. The circle of powerful allies was shrinking, while the circle of opponents was growing larger every day. Despite this overwhelming public condemnation and corporate exile, Kanye's inner circle has reportedly remained loyal. To them, this isn't the end of Kanye West. It's just another chapter in the life of a famously unpredictable and provocative artist. They see his controversial actions not as a career-ending meltdown, but as part of his public persona, the same chaotic energy that fueled his creative genius for years. They believe in the man behind the headlines, standing by him even as the rest of the world turns its back. This unwavering loyalty from his friends and collaborators paints a complicated picture of a man who is simultaneously being cancelled and embraced. Isolated from his corporate partners, Kanye found a new battle to fight, and a new, unexpected ally, Drake. Yes, that Drake. The same artist he had been in a long-standing, very public feud with. But in early 2025, something shifted. Drake filed a major lawsuit against his label, Universal Music Group, and Kanye saw an opportunity to reframe his own struggles. He publicly threw his support behind Drake, calling the lawsuit the biggest victory in music. Suddenly, it wasn't just about Kanye's personal controversies anymore. He was positioning himself as a champion for all artists, fighting against a system he described as exploitative. Kanye urged his fellow artists, including Drake and Kendrick Lamar, to stop fighting each other and unite against the real enemy, the major record labels. He called out powerful executives by name, referring to them as slave masters who profit from the creative work of artists while giving them only a fraction of the rewards. This was classic Kanye, turning his personal plight into a universal crusade. He was arguing that the contracts artists sign are a form of modern-day bondage, and that it was time for a revolution. This narrative allowed him to pivot from being a pariah to being a freedom fighter, at least in his own eyes. Drake's lawsuit against Universal Music Group added fuel to this fire. His legal team made some explosive claims, alleging that Universal had orchestrated Kendrick Lamar's recent Grammy wins and even his Super Bowl performance to assassinate Drake's character. While Universal dismissed the claims as frivolous, the lawsuit tapped into a deep-seated suspicion among many artists that the industry machinery is rigged. It suggested that the labels have the power to make or break careers, to pick winners and losers in a game where they own the entire stadium. For artists feeling trapped in unfair deals, this lawsuit was a beacon of hope. This new cause gave Kanye a renewed sense of purpose. While the world was focused on his offensive remarks, he was trying to change the conversation to artists' rights and ownership. It's a topic he has been passionate about for years, famously posting pages of his record contracts on social media to expose the fine print. By aligning with Drake, he was attempting to build a coalition of the industry's biggest names to challenge the status quo. It was a bold move, an attempt to transform his public exile into a powerful movement for creative and financial independence for all musicians. So, where does this all leave Kanye West? On one hand, his business empire is in shambles. The lucrative partnerships that made him a billionaire are gone, and the doors to the mainstream fashion and tech industries seem to be firmly shut. The boycott has been effective, limiting his ability to produce and sell his products on a global scale. Even with some limited restocks of Yeezy products happening, it's a far cry from the global dominance he once enjoyed. He is, for all intents and purposes, an independent artist in the most extreme sense of the word, cut off from the corporate infrastructure that amplifies creative work into a global phenomenon. On the other hand, Kanye has always thrived on chaos. He has built a career on being the underdog, the rebel, the one who speaks truth to power, or at least his version of it. His support for Drake's fight against Universal Music Group shows that he is not backing down. Instead, he is attempting to redefine his legacy, not as a fallen mogul, but as a revolutionary leader fighting for the soul of the music industry. His remaining supporters see him as a visionary who is willing to sacrifice everything for his principles. They believe that his unfiltered, often erratic behavior is the price of his genius. This brings us to the central, complicated question at the heart of this entire saga. Is Kanye West's wild ride a legitimate battle for freedom of expression and artists' rights? Or is it something else entirely? Is this a principled stand against corporate censorship and exploitative industry practices? Or is it the desperate, attention-seeking behavior of a celebrity who cannot stand to be out of the spotlight, even if that spotlight is now overwhelmingly negative? Has he become a martyr for a cause? Or has he simply become a cautionary tale about the consequences of unchecked ego and harmful rhetoric in the digital age? Ultimately, the answer probably lies somewhere in the middle. Kanye is a complex figure, a man of immense talent and profound contradictions. He can be a brilliant artist and a deeply flawed human being at the same time. His fight may contain genuine grievances about the music industry, while also being fueled by a personal need for validation and control. As we watch this incredible, chaotic, and often uncomfortable story unfold, we are left to wonder, Are we witnessing the self-destruction of a great artist or the painful birth of a new, more independent future for creators? Only time will tell.